Hello, and welcome to this self-paced course on how to podcast. You might be here because you want to podcast with your students, or maybe you're thinking of launching a podcast on your own. Either way, we've got something for you. Let's start off with a brief overview by John Spencer. He is a creative author of Empower and other books, and big advocate for creativity in the classroom.
A podcast is a series of audio files that you can download and listen to on pretty much any device. Most podcasts come in a series, and podcast listeners will subscribe to their favorite podcasts using an app. So why should students podcast? Number one, it doesn't take fancy equipment. Students can record and even edit audio on their smartphones or tablets. Number two, you can listen on the go. Students have access anywhere and at any time to new ideas and perspectives. And meanwhile, you as a teacher get a chance to check for understanding on the go. Number three, it's a chance for students to develop their voice. Here, students own the entire process, from inquiry and research up through composition, editing, and launching. Number four, it's a chance for all students to participate. Because you can prep ahead of time and edit afterwards, each student can create their episodes at their own pace. And number five, it develops lifelong skills like critical thinking, empathy, and communication.
So there's a nice friendly overview kind of outlining why you might want to do that with the students. And let's dive into a little bit more detail about that. So really, this is a creative process, and really emphasizing the process and learning over the product will be key to success in introducing podcasting in the classroom. The value is in the skill development of writing, creating, editing, and the feedback, not necessarily listening to the final product and taking it all from that. There is so many opportunities to empower and inspire students with voice and ideas, and really assessment, which we'll talk about later in the course, is linked to the instruction as opposed to the product. There are so many potential curriculum connections with podcasting and assessment for learning. Really, the sky's the limit to making connections depending on what you're teaching, what grade level, and what course you're making. So in this first module, we're going to go over some connections to curriculum, whether you're an elementary or secondary teacher, and delve into them by subject area. Really, there are so many potentials. And remember that the primary purpose of assessment is to improve student learning. And so to that end, there are some resources built in about co-constructing success criteria within podcasting, reflection activities throughout the process, and planning for effective experiential learning with podcasts as well. So why student podcasts? As John Spencer said, there are so many interesting ways and tools that you can use with podcasting. It really elevates student voice and offers them choice in what they're going to talk about. There are so many literacy skills in fostering human connection, and it's a really just in general an authentic way to capture student thinking in their learning as they go through it. Now, there are different skills depending on the consumption, i.e. the listening to and the critical listening to the podcasts in a classroom, and then on the creation side as well. So on the consumption side, there are so many great skills to develop and practice. And then on the creation, there's a whole other set of tools that students have access to start to hone and get better at and improve on. This is the self-paced tracker that will guide you through the course. We're going to start with, at this intro in the teacher's guide, we're starting with the why. Why are we going to do this? What are the curriculum connections, and exploring some curriculum podcasts. Then we're going to go into consume and to create. So analyzing different podcasts and different podcast types. Then diving into the what, identifying the topics, researching how to plan, and reflection activities to really have some great content that we're going to podcast about. Then we get into the how. So that is first the recording, starting with the recording basics and delving into some of the recording gear and other things you might want to know about. And then the editing, which involves basic editing tools in various formats and various softwares that you could use, as well as feedback as a way to enhance the learning in the podcasting. And then to end, the publishing and presenting and celebrating is a great way to end, and you have something tangible that's shareable with parents and shareable with the community, which is great. Now you'll notice that this self-paced tracker mirrors the creative process of podcasts, which you'll see in the teacher's guide. And that is first developing an understanding of the purpose and format, topic of interest, researching and developing, recording, critically reviewing, editing, and publishing. So you notice that the tracker in the course follows along that same creative process. Now, this is such a rich activity in and of itself, and there are so many potential extensions that you could entertain in your class beyond the podcast itself. That could involve composing original musical accompaniments to go along, either the background music or the intro and outro music for a podcast, creating cover art for the podcast, interviewing community members, sharing with local radio stations and community hubs and organizations, and having leadership opportunities such as school announcements, connecting with parents in the community, sharing student-led podcasts to accompany events and theme days in the school, as well as teaching others. Maybe you want to do a podcast as a mentoring tool for other educators in your school or in your district. So the potentials are vast. So that's what this course is going to be about. So let's dive into how to podcast.